Our first speaker is Marla, also known as Marla. And Marla will be sharing their story of self-abandonment in the face of jealousy and the value of engaging with hard feelings. So I've just asked them to unmute and hopefully they'll turn their video on. And let me add a spotlight for you right there. Okay. Yeah. Feel free to begin when you're ready.
Hi, everyone. I am Marla. I use they, them pronouns, and I am a therapist and educator focused on non-monogamous relationships. I'm currently tuning in from Portland, Oregon, 3 hours jet lagged in the past. I'm usually located near Toronto, Canada, on the land of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, the Huron-Wendat, and the Mississaugas of the New Credit. Before I jump into my piece about self-abandonment in non-monogamy, I do want to say that I have a special connection to Palestinian liberation as someone who was raised a Zionist, a Jewish Zionist. And I have been speaking out against Zionism for many, many years before it was on sort of the world stage in the way it is now. And this is a very, very important part and like cause to my heart. But self-abandonment in non-monogamy. So as someone who spends some of their time doing therapeutic work, a lot of my sort of frame of reference is in trauma theory and attachment theory. And without getting deep into it, because I could give a whole day workshop about this, attachment theory really looks at the ways that we are engaging with the experience of abandonment and rejection in our relationships. And so I wanted to talk about the way abandonment, but specifically the ways that we might self-abandon in non-monogamous dynamics and how that can be very specific to non-monogamy. And I'm going to do that through sharing a bit of a story. So I've been practicing non-monogamy for almost 20 years, and I'm still with the partner that I started doing this with when we were 18. But about 13 years into our relationship, after having been in all kinds of permutations of dating together and separately, a new person came into our lives. And this person was definitely developing a closer, faster, stronger dynamic with my partner than with me, even though we were all hanging out together and separately. And there was this one night in particular where we had all hung out, we'd had some dinner, we were over at our place, and then we were saying our goodbyes. And I, had a hug with this person, and then my partner went to sort of see them out. And I remember standing at the top of the stairs and waiting and waiting and waiting for my partner to kind of come back and wondering what they might be up to. And, were they having like a long, exciting kiss? And all of a sudden, all of these insecurities and jealousy feelings, right, rooted in that insecurity started coming up for me, maybe even also rooted in unmet needs that I had for this kind of closeness, right? I was feeling left out. However, rather than, and this is something I try to support people with all the time, rather than working through the jealousy by discussing it with my partner, with this new person, right? Rather than kind of investigating what was really going on, all of a sudden I was like, Marla, you are a non-monogamy educator. You can't be jealous right now. I mean, again, this is many years ago. It's like 7 years ago, but there was this idea that I wasn't allowed to be experiencing these things because in my head, the words were, you signed up for this. This is the kind of world that you want to be living, right? Like this is something you've consented to. And so rather than engaging with what was going on, what I found myself doing was trying to suppress or repress or dismiss those feelings. I abandoned myself and my own reality for the sense of greater good for all the other people involved, right? This idea that I wasn't supposed to or allowed to be feeling this thing or these things. And what ended up happening through that self-abandonment, and again, I'm giving you one story here. I have many others of my own and also many other stories from people that I've worked with where we will have this tendency, right? It's like, I read about non-monogamy. I read about polyamory. I've drunk the blue Kool-Aid of non-monogamy, which is like a joke I make. It's like sort of funny, I guess. Sorry. But this idea that like, I bought into this thing, therefore I'm not supposed to feel these other things. And then we override our real experiences because we're trying to perform what we think non-monogamy is supposed to be. And so what I learned from this and what I'm hoping everybody can kind of take away from this is that just because we're feeling hard feelings doesn't mean that they're not allowed to have space at the table. And if anything, I would say, please give them space at the table, because what happened when I abandoned myself, my feelings, and ultimately these relationships as a result of that is that it created way more conflict. I was suppressing these feelings, therefore having these other kind of unnecessary arguments in our relationships because there was this like tension within me that I just wasn't, oh, I'm almost done, because I was refusing to engage with what was really happening, right? It was this idea that like, no, let's just push it down. But I always say that feelings are like a game of whack-a-mole, right? When you try to push some down, if they're not being addressed, then they're going to pop up in another place. And so this ended up being a much longer, much more conflicting time in all of our relationships because I would not acknowledge and abandoned my own experience of really tough feelings, because relationships can be hard, but hard doesn't equal bad. And so this is the story that I leave you with today. And I thank you all. And thank you, Leanne, for putting this together. It's really a gift to be part of this community.